Hi everyone, and thank you for joining us for today's webcast, 6 Reasons to Avoid Using Spreadsheets for Supply Chain Planning. My name is Caitlin Hensley, Marketing Coordinator with GSI, and I'm also very pleased to welcome our main presenters, Mike Donovan and Kate Warner from DemandCaster. Now before we get started, I wanted to give you a chance to review our Safe Harbor Statement. Now for a quick overview of today's meeting, which will last about 60 minutes. First, we would like to take a moment to go over a couple of housekeeping items, as well as provide a brief company overview. Then we will turn things over to Mike and Kate to get into our main presentation and demo, which will last about 40 minutes. Next, we'll take a minute to go over upcoming educational events, and then we'll wrap up with a 10-minute Q&A session. If you would like to submit a question, you can do so through the questions panel at the bottom of the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. Please note that questions will be answered at the end of the presentation, so if you'd like to minimize your GoToWebinar console during the presentation, just click the right-facing arrow key on the top left of the console. Clicking the left arrow key will return the console so that you can input your questions. And now I'd like to give you a brief overview of GSI. GSI is a full-service NetSuite consulting organization. We are an Oracle Platinum partner that was founded in 2004 and now has over 100 employees. We have offices nationwide and are recognized on the Inc. 5000 list of fastest-growing companies in the U.S. GSI specializes in project consulting, managed services, and cloud and hosting services, with all of those services backed with a 100% guarantee. GSI also provides a broad spectrum of business, functional, and technical consulting services for JD Edwards, Oracle Cloud, Salesforce, ServiceNow, and other enterprise applications. And now I'd like to turn things over to Mike for our main presentation and demo.
Thank you very much, and thank you everyone for joining us here today. My name is Mike Donovan. I'm a Senior Account Executive at DemandCaster, which is a supply chain planning solution. I also have with me Kate Warner, who is a solutions engineer for DemandCaster, and she'll be taking you through a live demonstration of our product. But really the purpose of the call today is to expose the opportunity that exists for those of you who are still managing their supply chain and maintaining their inventory levels via Excel spreadsheets. So I'll share with you that I implemented NetSuite at my last company. I was the director of supply chain. I understand some of the challenges and benefits of NetSuite. I think a lot of NetSuite, but NetSuite and other ERPs generally, typically will lack in some areas as far as a more robust experience with supply chain planning and the tools available. So some of the benefits that you can expect from going from an Excel-based planning tool to a dynamic solutions such as DemandCaster and others would be improved service levels, normally resulting in fewer lost customers, fewer lost sales, and also increasing revenue because of that. Reduced obsolete inventory, better managing those products and those inventory levels as they progress through the cycle, and also reducing write-offs, and better plan and forecasting for new introductions. This is a difficult item for a lot of businesses who are introducing and discontinuing a lot of products. It's a lot of moving parts and pieces, especially as you get higher and higher into your SKU counts. At the end of the day, we're going to remove that gut feel and replace that with data-driven strategic decisions about the items you produce and sell. So this is going to be a very high-level overview today. Typically, Kate and I will spend, you know, as much as 90 minutes on the first call when we engage with a new customer. So we're going to kind of expedite it and kind of stay above it. It's intended to introduce you to some of these concepts to see if this is something that you would like to continue to explore. In that case, we would be happy to work with you. And again, this presentation isn't about Demandcaster. It's about the type of tools that exist. So we're not the one solution fits all. We probably fit most, but there's a lot of solutions that are available out there at a lot of different prices that offer a lot of different types of functionality. Generally speaking, you know, these solutions will start around $10,000 a year subscription if they're cloud-based like we are, and they can range, you know, into the hundreds of thousands, and the largest organizations may even be paying $1 million or more for their supply chain management solutions. The good news here is that, you know, in every case, and you know, with our company, and I would imagine others, you know, these tools represent, you know, an extraordinary value back to the companies that use them, and it produces many times, you know, the value of the cost of the solution, and that ROI is realized in most cases in the first year. So although they may be, you know, not inexpensive solutions, they offer an incredible amount of value to the organizations they serve. So as I said, today we're going to be using Demandcaster to show you what a robust, fully integrated, end-to-end supply chain planning solution looks like. And, you know, what do I mean when I say end-to-end and robust and integrated? So Demandcaster has a bidirectional integration with NetSuite. So we pull in a lot of data from your NetSuite instance. We are a built for NetSuite provider, and we pass back information, you know, back into NetSuite as well, as far as, well, we'll get into that in a little bit. But I guess without getting too much more into the weeds here, I'm going to pass things over to Kate, and she's going to show you what this tool looks like. I hope everyone can see our screen, and she'll take it from here.
All right, sounds good. Thank you, Mike. So looking at the reason that the topic for today, issues that come up with spreadsheets while you're planning. So Excel, while it's a great tool for reporting, it's very useful for companies. Once they start growing, you hit that cap where you're no longer getting the information that you need or the agility that you need out of an Excel spreadsheet for your supply chain planning. So today we're going to walk through some of information in Demandcaster, how we can move through our demand planning processes, how we can bring data in seamlessly from your ERP system all the way through creating suggested orders to help avoid those pitfalls that you see in using spreadsheets. So first of all, we start with that classic issue of garbage in, garbage out. So building out that bidirectional integration with the ERP system allows for less vulnerability in data transfer. What we'll do is we'll integrate with NetSuite in particular via the SuiteScript API functionality and set up an automated data load so that we can pull your data in from your ERP system on a nightly basis. This avoids any potential errors when transferring data and allows us to always be up to date on the latest and greatest that we see in your ERP. From there, within the tool, we'll bring in that data from NetSuite, advanced analytics that allow us to calculate out things like a best fit forecast, targeted safety stocks and order points. to give us a single view right here where we're able to see by priority what orders need to be placed throughout our supply chain. So this planner action screen is the end result of all the work that we do in Demandcaster and our touch point for our planners to be able to come in and say what orders need to be placed and when. Everything in Demandcaster is done on an item location specific basis. So as I'm looking at my recommendations, I'll be able to see not only what item needs to be ordered, but also in what location the order needs to be placed. Here, for example, I have an urgent transfer requirement for item 30060 in my Atlanta distribution center. Further down the list, I see 30060 again. However, now I've got a requirement to expedite an existing order at my Carlsbad plant. Looking at the inventory available in each location, calculating out safety stocks and order points at item location specific basis allows us to optimize orders and optimize inventory by location and across your supply chain. On this screen, we are seeing both our finished good requirements and our components, our transfers, our makes, our buys, all in one place. So we can filter down to make sure that we're getting just the information that we need. I'll take a look at just my requirements for my Atlanta distribution center. By hitting search, I get a pared down list of recommendations so that I can begin to work through the approval process of orders and get orders executed back in NetSuite. So right away, I've got this urgent requirement to transfer more material from our Carlsbad plant to Atlanta distribution center. I need to get this order placed by tomorrow based on the lead time of my item and the fact that I'm seeing my stock out on October 14th. I'm able to see the order quantity required as well. And where I see the data in blue, I can actually click in and make any adjustments as needed. One of those key issues that we end up seeing with our spreadsheets is that inconsistent knowledge between people who are using the spreadsheets. Some may be super users, others may be new to the spreadsheet, and so might not understand the calculations or the intricacies behind what's happening. Within this platform, an inexperienced user can come in and easily see what requirements are top of the list, highlighted red and urgency, and see a proactive view of where we need to place orders into the future to avoid those safety stock breaches and avoid any stockouts. Where we do have that urgent transfer requirement in our lead time, we may want to see what's driving this. Be able to take it away from that gut feel of placing an order that may result in an expedite, may result in our company costing extra money, to actually understanding where this order is coming from and why we need to place it. As a result, we can click on this view details right here that allows me to see that consolidated view, that data that's coming in from my ERP system, the forecast that's driving my recommendations, and my safety stocks that are being calculated, and also giving me a clear understanding of why the system is suggesting an order. So here I am on a time phase requirement plan for item 30060 in my Atlanta distribution center. At the top, I can see key pieces of data and information that are driving my requirements plan. What is my forecast over my lead time? What is that system calculated safety stock? I find that those using spreadsheets, often what you get to is this issue of safety stock becomes a sticking point. How should we calculate our safety stock? What method should be used? Do we need to be carrying safety stock at all? Within Demandcaster, we'll run through a business importance classification of your items, understanding on an item location specific basis what the revenue contribution is of your item. We'll be able to look at demand profiles, understanding where demand is more intermittent, where demand is smoother, to see where you're carrying the most risk within your supply chain. For a high importance item with highly unforecastable demand, you carry a much greater level of risk than a lower importance item or an item with a smooth, repeatable, understandable demand pattern. From there, service levels can be assigned based on that business importance to influence statistically driven safety stock calculations that can be set during implementation and dynamically adjusted by the system as you move forward and see changes in your demand. The forecast and the safety stock over our lead time give us our order point calculation, allowing us to see that recommended net availability over the lead time. Here, we're covering the full scope of our expected demand, our forecast, and that variability within our safety stock over the lead time of our item to ensure we'll have enough on hand to meet any unexpected orders. Scrolling down, we get into the details of our suggested order. I'm able to see our starting on hand right here. This data will be pulled from your ERP system on a nightly basis, ensuring that this report is up to date and run based on the latest and greatest of the data. We're also going to bring in any customer orders. In the independent demand column, I can see any open sales orders that may be affecting my demand. And I have my forecast. This forecast is either a best fit statistical or the result of a sales and operations planning process enabled through DemandCaster's advanced planning in this case. Our total demand here will take a net of the greater of the independent demand and the forecast quantity. So we're always looking out, taking our forecast, where our forecast is greater than our sales, suggesting that we may see an increase in sales over the week as we move forward, or where we have actually exceeded those sales, we're going to take the full scope of demand to net against our starting on hand value. Where we are outside of the lead time, we are highlighting where we've exceeded our forecast with these red boxes right here, allowing us to reevaluate that forecast for the future weeks and see if there are any adjustments that need to be made. Ultimately, this total demand will get netted against our starting on hand quantity, and as we dip below our safety stock or our order point, we'll see a recommendation for a suggested order. No longer are these safety stock calculations, order quantities, open to interpretation or to the gut feel of a planner who's looking at it. We can clearly see what's driving that suggested order recommendation and with comfort execute those orders back in DemandCaster or in your ERP. My apologies. Where we have distribution networks or bill of materials, suggested orders at the top finished good level will get distributed down, leading to dependent demand at source locations and exploding requirements through a multi-level bill of materials, giving us that insight not just at the finished good level, but throughout our entire supply chain, and allowing us to get ahead of finished good level demand, especially where there are long lead times involved. While I can dive into these requirement plans to get a good view of exactly what is triggering a suggested order, the Planner Action View is my one-stop report, allowing me to get orders approved and downloaded into my ERP across multi-levels of my BOM and throughout my supply chain. So we can see now how we can use this Planner Action Report to dive into requirements, understand what purchase orders need to be placed, what transfer orders need to be placed, where we're seeing those supply gaps. But we still have that picture of that forward-looking demand, that view of how can we influence the demand so that we get better forecasts, so that we can build in expectations of customer opportunities, longer-term growth goals, budgets, etc., to influence what we're seeing right here on this screen. Well, within Demandcaster's advanced planning, we can take our forecasting one step further and build a dynamic demand plan that allows us to add lifts, account for information that lives outside of our forecasts. We're going to start with a base level statistical forecast based off of a dynamic planning hierarchy. This hierarchy allows us to look at data at different levels: customer, item, location, or even user-defined groupings. So we could see data by product category, product family, style, etc. Here, we're generating our statistical forecast. Demandcaster leverages a best fit statistical algorithm, looking at a demand profile for an item. So while in spreadsheet models, we can suggest 10% lift year over year on our history, or even apply different calculations to forecast, what we're doing here is being able to take your history, quickly analyze it, determine a demand profile, and auto-select the algorithm to best match the demand profile of an item, customer, location, product category, etc. Once we have that base level statistical established, we can then use our demand planning screen to quickly visualize, interpret, and make adjustments to our forecasts. One of the benefits that people find from working within spreadsheets is being able to manipulate data, pulling data into a table quickly, being able to interpret their own way. Well, we've brought that into our setup for this screen here, allowing users to create user-defined views and hierarchies for how they want to see and they want to interpret the data. Starting with the planning hierarchy down the side, we've established a dynamic hierarchy, so on the fly, I can say, I want to look at my data based on my forecast, based on company, customer, product category, item, but also location. I can have location at the bottom, breaking my bottom level item forecast into a location specific forecast. Or I can establish the location level up at the top. As I make adjustments to my planning hierarchy, I can then click into these different levels to view data at aggregated levels, or drill down to see customers by location. What product categories I sell to that customer, and ultimately drilling down into a location, customer, item specific forecast. We can really get as granular or as high level as you would like within the system. From here, we can evaluate our forecasts, starting with a representation of 3 years of our history and a best fit statistical. By default, our plan line will take that statistical forecast. But where we can see buckets in green here is where that forecast has been adjusted based on information outside of the statistical. Here in May, I can see that I'm on my wholesale 1 forecast for item 71 in my Atlanta distribution center. My sales team may get information that we are expanding sales of this particular item within this region starting through the spring. I can layer in that understanding right into my forecast here so that I can add lifts moving forward that'll ultimately result in the running of that planner action report for my future months. When lifts have been added to the forecast, I save them and they get rolled up to the company level and all the way down to the individual items that I may sell instantly, allowing me to quickly analyze the effect that this is going to have on my upper level forecast. We'll also translate that plan into financial metrics, looking at how my unit plan will affect my revenue, average selling price, cost of goods sold, and margin, at any level of this dynamic planning hierarchy. This can allow us to quickly close gaps between unit-driven demand and any revenue goals that our company may have. Once we have our demand plan established, we can quickly translate this into a supply plan, allowing me to see how I will fulfill that demand and from where that demand will be filled. So taking a look at my 30060 again in my Atlanta distribution center, once I've established this new demand plan, I can click on my details to see how I'll fulfill that demand plan from my specific location. Taking my sales forecast right here, as that plan line from my demand plan, I can see what my current inventory is, what my forecast is, any open customer orders, but also that safety stock and total demand, building out the final supply plan of how I'll meet my demand and my ending on hand inventory on a rolling 12 months basis. From here, I can evaluate any gaps between my demand plan and my supply plan and get them resolved so I can approve my forecast through my plan approval to send it down to run my requirement plan. In this way, we're providing an end-to-end system, taking in data from NetSuite, running through the demand planning process, translating to supply, all the way through executing the demand plan right here on the planner action report, and getting those recommended orders approved and pushed back to NetSuite for execution. One of the other reasons to avoid using spreadsheets for planning is any potential for fraud or misrepresentation. Spreadsheets can become very vulnerable to security breaches, and it's easy for slip-ups to happen. Within Demandcaster and other planning tools, not only do we have accountability in terms of user access, permissions to the system, but along the way, we're keeping log of any changes that are made in the system. This can help to avoid any misrepresentation, but also can drive accountability through your organization as well. Within the change log here, we can see those lists that I just made to that demand plan. I'm able to dive into exactly where that happened and what happened, what that unit change was. So here I have my change made at the wholesale level for my particular item in my Atlanta distribution center, and I can drill in to see exactly what units were changed. Driving accountability, but also the flow of data throughout the entire process. Everything we do in Demandcaster ultimately comes back to our planner action report. While we have the ability to build complex demand plans, to analyze data, to understand trends, help determine planning policy settings, etc., the planner action report is the end result, allowing us to quickly interpret what we need to order and when, supported by robust forecasts, safety stock calculations, that are tailored to trends within your data that are quickly imported back into NetSuite for execution.
Thanks, Kate. So I hope this was helpful to those joining the call. I'm sure a number of you, your experience ranges as far as if you're a planner today, or looking to, kind of take the next step into, how you plan as a company. But anyway, this hopefully gave you a good understanding, just a little peek behind what these solutions do, they do a lot. And I think you can start to see that with the demonstration. At the end of the day, what we're doing is we're optimizing your inventory levels, which minimizes your cost of goods sold while at the same time maximizing that service level. That's usually very difficult to do for growing companies. It takes what is very complex when you think about all these different items, all these different lead times coming from many different places all over the world, the bill of materials. It takes what's very complex and really does make it very simple. So although we dove into a number of different screens, at the end of the day, we're really just taking a forecast or demand plan and we're translating it into this final screen here. And some of our customers get very involved and dive into all the little details and options and screens. And some people very simply look at their past sales history and let the algorithms do their work and produce these suggestions of what to order, when to order, and how much to order. The system automates a lot of the non-value-added steps in the planning process. So it's going to allow you to scale your business without additional personnel costs and other costs. And it's also, again, it's going to dynamically adjust your inventories as you grow, which is really what is so difficult. We worked with a lot of companies. One comes to mind today that has found their way into Costco, and they have extreme growth. And when you have extreme growth like that, and huge demands of service levels from people like Costco or other customers, you feel like you have to maintain extraordinary levels of inventory to meet that demand. So it becomes a cash flow issue or concern. So this is why it's so critical, so impactful to your gross margin, your cost of goods sold, the overall profitability of the businesses that we work with. So I think from here, I want to thank everyone for joining. We have a question and answer session, and I would love to hear from you, and I would love to have anyone who wants to take more time to go back through what we looked at today, and to be honest with you, go a whole lot deeper, on a one-on-one call if there's any interest out there.
All right, thanks, Mike and Kate. And now I want to cover a few follow-up items, and then we'll move into our question and answer. Our webcast today is part of GSI's free ongoing educational webcast series on NetSuite. Our upcoming webcasts are listed on the screen. To view our most up-to-date schedule, please visit getgsi.com/netsuite/webcasts. GSI provides extensive free educational resources for the NetSuite community, including our weekly educational webcasts, monthly newsletter called the GSI Insider, and the online resource center where you can access our on-demand webcasts, white papers, etc. If you'd like to sign up for our weekly email reminders for upcoming webcasts, our monthly newsletter, or to create an account to access our resource center, go to getgsi.com, go to Resources and Events on the main menu, select NetSuite, and then select the appropriate link on the right. Also, we welcome you to check out our ERP Talk. The information is listed on the screen. And be sure to keep up with us on social media. And I'd like to remind everyone that if you would still like to submit a question, you can do so using the questions panel in the GoToWebinar console window located on the right side of your screen. If you minimized your console earlier, please click the left arrow to redisplay the questions panel. All right, and our first question comes from Jim, who asks, how much do these solutions cost, and how can we gain a better understanding for what our potential would be to achieve the ROI that was suggested?
Okay, I'll field that question. So, DemandCaster is just one of, again, many tools. Lots of different functionality, lots of different pricing models as well. Some are based on, per user, and it really spans all over the place. But I would say, for those of you who are wondering if it's in your budget, whatnot, as I said, maybe starting at about $10,000 subscription, up to hundreds of thousands, if not more, based on a lot of different factors. I would say don't be scared off by price in any situation, because again, I would like to say that all the solutions have this in common, but these solutions add so much value in financial value on top of strategic decision making and time savings. Taking all that out of consideration, it has dramatic impacts on gross margin, cost of goods sold, inventory carrying costs, and cash flow, which are all terms that your CFOs should love to hear about.
All right, thank you. Our next question comes from Vanessa, who asks, how long and involved is the implementation process?
You want to do that?
Sure. So the implementation process, I've seen a variety of implementation processes across different solutions, but specifically speaking to our process, we're usually looking at roughly a 12-week timeline for implementation. Now, what this involves is integration with NetSuite. Being as it is a custom integration, that means that we're mapping onto the way that the NetSuite environment is configured. So there's some work on both sides, deploying those scripts in the SuiteScript API functionality, but on the customer side, validating the data and helping us map that data appropriately.
I'll add to that also during our implementation, there is a ton of one-on-one training between our implementation specialists and the people at your organization. So those trainings can be recorded, and because I'm sure if this is the first time for a lot of you seeing a tool like this, it seems very complicated and a lot of numbers all over the place, but it really is actually a pretty simple tool, and we really prepare you before we set you loose into the world.
Right, and through those trainings, different people may be involved. So if you are running a sales and operations planning process, that team will be involved in the setting up of the advanced planning, but might not be involved in the planner action report and the configuration of replenishment policies, etc. But either way, our consultants are there every step along the way, not just to train, but to also make sure that they're taking into consideration your business practices, how your business is set up, so that they're making recommendations on configuration as well.
All right, thank you. And our next question comes from Sarah, who asks, does the tool account for the demand of my component parts and raw materials?
Yes, it does. So what we look at is a lot of the time when people are looking at planning those component parts, it's largely based off of usage, and that can be misleading, as it's not taking into consideration any missed sales. Component parts are a huge bottleneck to fulfilling end customer demand if they're not planned correctly. And so we will take into consideration bills of materials, component parts. We'll take that finished good level forecast and explode it throughout the BOM.
All right, thank you. That appears to be the end of the questions today. Thank you, Mike, Kate, and everyone for your questions.
All right.
As a follow-up from today's webcast, we ask that you complete a short 1-minute survey when you exit. You will be receiving an email with a link to our resource center on our website where you can access the link from today's recording. After today's webcast, we will do the drawing for the $25 Amazon gift card, and anyone who attended the entire webcast will be eligible, and we will notify the winner. Thanks again for attending our presentation, and have a great day.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.